Massive changes in Canada today. It turns out the Liberals are quietly planning some new ways to go about elections in Canada when it's the worst the Liberals have ever been in the polls. We're going to get to that in a minute, as well as what the NDP is up to and just the chaos that's kind of going on around Canada right now. But before we get into it, I encourage everyone to smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. It really helps grow the channel. Hope you consider turning post notifications on so you can actually be notified. Subscribing obviously helps, but notifications is it's kind of like being subscribed twice. It gives you a better chance. And if you'd like some awesome stickers, there's a great sticker pack that is for sale down in the description or the pinned comment below. You have Justin Trudeau being penetrated by Klaus Schwab himself. You have Chrystia Freeland, the Wicked Witch of the North, on a broom, rightfully so. You have Trudeau, Have You Seen Me? Because he's missing on a milk carton. I did not see that coming. And speech you hate does not equal hate speech. All of that and more is linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. Now let's take a look at the polls here. Need 170 seats for a majority in Canada. The Conservatives are projected to hit 198 with a low end of almost majority and a high end of FU to every other party in Canada. 99% likely of winning the most seats and 91% likely of winning a majority with a 9% likelihood of winning a minority. Yeah, it's looking really rough for the Conservatives at this point. Let's see what sellout Jagmeet Singh is up to these days. Going after Pierre Poilievre isn't interested in taking on corporate landlords. They're his biggest donors. His plan is the same as it's always been. Let investors use housing as a get-rich-quick scheme while you pay the price. This is misinformation, but let's watch it nonetheless.
Pierre Poilievre doesn't care about the cost of your rent, and I'll tell you why in 60 seconds. Remember this video? Pierre Poilievre was really angry about this micro unit, $2,000 a month, and he said this is so horrible. Well, guess what? It turns out that this building behind me that he complained about is actually owned by one of his biggest donors. He's not going to take on corporate landlords. He benefits from them and he works for them. He doesn't care about bringing down rent. He cares about serving the corporate interest. The corporate controlled Conservatives are in it for you. You Democrats are. We're going to build homes you can actually afford.
Okay, so one of the biggest differences between all the parties is the Conservatives have actually openly talked about how they're going to take old government buildings and get rid of the government structure that's happening and turn them into homes, either the land or the actual buildings. And that's a pretty phenomenal idea considering there's a lot, like a ton. There's a ton, there's a metric ton, and then there's a shit ton. That's what the kind of level that we're dealing with right now. Then you've got Danielle Smith on X saying, do you support the single-use items bylaw in Calgary and in Edmonton that forces consumers to use paper straws and request napkins with their meals? 87% say no, we don't support that. Canada is just becoming this progressive hellhole, and it doesn't seem like there's an end to it. But you're gonna get more angry as this video goes on. So that's kind of why I want you guys to hit that like button now, because you feel like everyone's gonna get too angry with where the direction of Canada is going, as you're gonna find out in a few minutes of this video. Then next we have some more Palestine protests happening. This is by Karima Rules on X. It seems like these are still ongoing. Canada is just kind of living in a perpetual state of protests right now. You've got pro-Palestine, pro-Israel protests, impeding traffics, and then there's a reboot of the Freedom Convoy that's happening. There's a lot of things, and anywhere Justin Trudeau goes, he's getting protested. So Canada is it's not boring. It's not boring at all. Come visit Canada if you haven't yet and join a protest. That's our biggest attraction right now. Cops are parked on the overpass shoulder at the 401 and Avenue Road. Protesters wave flags on the sidewalk down the bridge. Everywhere you go, there are protests happening in Canada. And speaking of protests, we have the anniversary for the Freedom Convoy. You've got Daisy Media is right at Parliament Hill. And they're celebrating, man. They are celebrating, especially the fact that the Emergencies Act was recently, for those who are out of the loop, the Emergencies Act that was called upon the Freedom Convoy back in 2022, 2 years ago, was just deemed unconstitutional, unreasonable, unintelligible, and unjustified. Accountability is coming. So this is really, really good news for Canadians. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here on Parliament Hill today. And well, Let's see what Justin Trudeau has to say in this speech that he just gave a couple of days ago. And then we're going to get into this breaking news for today and how they are literally trying to, what could be deemed, I don't want to be like super objective because, you know, YouTube and the banhammer and stuff, but what could be deemed or interpreted as a way to meddle, control, manipulate, falsify upcoming elections or making rules to the voting, mail-in voting and things like that. It's just like, why now when you're at an all-time low in the polls? Why isn't the Conservatives advocating for this? Why is it the losing team that knows they have something to lose, so they're trying to change the rules? It's just all very big coinkydink at this point.
Canadians rightly love this country. And they expect us to continue to have a government that lives up to their vision, their hopes, and their dreams of who we are and what we can accomplish all together.
Let me know down in the comments right now, just pause the video and let me know if you think that the Liberals are the government that we all envisioned having. If you think the Liberals are the ones that can fix Canada or are doing a good job of fixing Canada, let me know yes or no what you think down below in the comments and be truthful. Leave it a short message, leave a bunch of messages, whatever you want. But let's just get the chat going down in the comments because this is just absolutely ridiculous.
C'est ce qui nous rassemble.
And he goes to French.
Citoyens à tradition. Malheureusement, amplifié.
Love how the French is significantly longer than the English.
They don't need slogans. They need thoughtful solutions. We've gotten a lot of big things done over these past years, and we're eager to do even more faster because we can never stop pushing to get more things done for Canadians. Canada is the best country in the world, and we are going to work every day to make it even better.
Okay, so before he falsifies a bit of momentum there with the applause, I really want to say that Canada has the opportunity to be the best country in the world. We have an amazing culture. We have amazing people. We've got great accents. We have vast land. It's incredible that we have all of the seasons. A lot of countries around the world don't have those seasons. We have amazing summer times and spring and fall and winter, and people know how to come together. We're somewhat patriotic, maybe not as much as America, but Canadians love Canada and it's awesome. But with the Liberal government in place, Canadians really don't like or trust Canada. I mean, I like Canadian people, but I don't like our government. I don't trust our government, and I'm quite frankly embarrassed of our government. And if I were to go abroad right now and people are like, hey, are you Canadian? I'd be like, I don't know. I think I identify as like American now. I don't really know which is worse because to the rest of the world, America has been the laughingstock of the world for a very, very long time now, more than ever with Joe Biden. But it seems like Canada is worse. I think we have the crown for the laughingstock of the world with this guy in power. So now let's get into the secret move by the Liberals and the NDP coalition. Would Trudeau and Singh attempt to give immigrants full Canadian voting rights? Why the secrecy? What is Trudeau up to? We now know why Singh will never end the coalition with the Liberals. He wants these reforms as they benefit NDP. And here we thought Singh was in it for Canadians' best interest. Nope, it's his own interests. I'm sure this could be considered election interference. And you're going to want to pay attention to comments like this because it really seems like that is where we are going. And this is where I've already seen the script and how this is going to play out. You, me, everybody else and their grandma that has at least an ounce of common sense is going to say this seems like election interference. The Liberals are then going to take that, weaponize it, and say, that's MAGA politics. You're bringing American politics style here by calling election interference when there's clearly no election interference, and now it's going to be a buzzword, and it's just that's how this is going to play out. So we need a new way of approaching this, and I hope Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives can come up with a really witty and good idea because just going out and objectively saying that seems like election interference is going to trigger all of the Liberals that hate Trump, that detest American MAGA style politics, and it's just going to divide everybody even more because when you say election interference, everybody in the world thinks about America, and that's just, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to avoid being labeled and categorized as that because I think we're a little better than Americans. I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying. I think Canadians are a little bit better than Americans. I'm just saying. But, Hopefully you're Canadian and you support that. If not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. All right, CTV News. Trudeau and Singh's team quietly planning electoral reform legislation. This is from CTV's official X account, making it easier for Chinese Communist Party to interfere in our elections. You're going to see interfere as a buzzword everywhere, and it's going to be weaponized. And with the House of Commons coming back in a couple of days, it's going to be brought up during question period, and it's just... I already see how this plays out. We need a new word other than electoral interference. We need a new word. Somebody out there, just drop your ideas down in the comments. Come up with something witty, something smarter, because it's just, we need something different. We need something different badly. Common citizens need to understand that we need 3 days of voting to figure out how many mail-in ballots to print. Our Chinese handlers have explained to us that this is the best way of guaranteeing a true democracy based off Trudeau. This is a Stephen Guilbeault parody account, of course. I'll drop a like on that one. That was pretty funny. There's no way this can be done without a referendum. Every referendum on the subject has failed. If they try anything without a referendum first, it will get bogged down in court. After a referendum will be legally required. This cannot be done by caveat. 9 years into a state and unpopular government, and now electoral reform needs to be tabled. Good grief, this man will not give up power. And that is absolutely right. You've seen Justin Trudeau on recent interviews, televised or on YouTube podcasts, where he's laughing, saying this many years into politics and his father was just getting started. He is so delusional. If this was in the best interest of Canadians, he would actually step down. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I will continue to only say this one sentence or this one question should I ever have the opportunity to ask this question or one singular question to any politician ever. If it were to be undeniably, objectively true that you are no longer the best fit, or what you're doing is no longer in the best interest of Canadians or the country that you're leading, would you step down and let the next best person take your place? And I would ask that to Trudeau. I would ask that to Pierre Poilievre. I would ask that to Trump. I'd ask that to any single politician ever, because that just shows where their mindset is. And only a very true, genuine person would actually say, you know what? I would step down if it were to be in the best interest of the country in which I serve as a public servant and as the leader of a country. But would Trudeau ever say that? Well, no. It's very obvious that he would never say that. Would Pierre Poilievre ever say that? I don't know. I haven't yet to actually ask him the question, but maybe one day I would like to ask him after he's prime minister. All right, this is the actual CTV article. Trudeau and Singh's team quietly planning electoral reform legislation. It just so happens to be a year and a little bit before the upcoming election, when the polls are just saying they're 1% likely to win. As progress on some measures in the Liberal NDP confidence and supply agreement continue to play out publicly, the two parties have quietly been in talks to table electoral reform legislation before the next federal vote. Leading these negotiations on the political front are public safety, democratic institutions, and intergovernmental affairs minister Dominic LeBlanc, and NDP MP and Democratic reform critic Daniel Blakey. In an interview with ctvnews.ca between NDP caucus retreat, Blakey says there has been a fair amount of work done towards drafting amendments to the Canadian Elections Act. While not a full-scale overhaul of the federal voting system, as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau once promised, within the two-party confidence and supply agreement are a series of electoral reform proposals aimed at expanding the ability for people to vote. Specifically, the Liberals and NDP, they want to explore allowing an expanded 3-day voting period during general elections, allowing voters to cast their ballots at any polling place within their riding, and improving the mail-in ballot process with both accessibility and maintaining integrity in mind. I think if you look at all those items, those are the things that will require some kind of legislative change. And this is where it becomes extremely controversial. Excuse me. Adding in these mail-in ballots, like, I'm not smart enough to make a decision on whether this is good or bad. It all just seems very fishy that this is happening right now. And this seems to be one of the catalysts towards what caused the massive controversy with the last American election. And we're seeing it happen right now in Canada. But because it's happening here in Canada, it's okay. This is going to have insane blowback. You're going to see Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand, Tucker Carlson, all the massive public figures that have uttered the words Canada is doomed out of their mouths in the past 6 months are going to be talking about this in the next couple of days, because it's just, bro, come on. Are you blind? Like, how many times do you have to be wrong before you're like, I think this is another one of those things that are going to wrong me? Let's take a little look here at the clip.
Care and Rob Benzie. Since I have the former leader of the NDP here next to me, I'll start with you, Tom. Look, if they sat you down right now and said, what do we have to do to punch through? Because to be clear, they have not been. The polls have stayed snagged for them for years now. Yep. What would you tell them?
It's a very tough situation. There's a group of voters that we used to call orange-blue switchers. There are areas of Canada that will go NDP or go Conservative, but never give a look to the Liberals. And people always think that, that the Liberals, when they're coming to get votes, it's out of the NDP. But the Conservatives are taking a lot of NDP votes right now. So that's making things tricky. The Liberals also have a long-standing tendency, the minute things get tough, to demonize their opponent and then to talk to voters and say, don't split the vote. Andrew Scheer's against abortion. Aaron O'Toole is against gun control, and he's an anti-vaxxer. So they demonize their opponent. But Poilievre embraces that. I'll keep attacking me, and I'll keep stealing your votes. So that is a real challenge for the NDP right now.
Why do you think...
That's the most beautiful and poetic thing about the Conservatives, is that no matter what tactics that we've seen up to date being launched against Pierre Poilievre, excuse me, he just turns it around and he turns it into something beautiful, something that gets even more virality, that just goes even further into the ether of the internet, and he gains more traction and more popularity. And it's not just about social media popularity and clicks and views and searchability, even though that does play a huge factor into that. And that's unfortunate. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, the world that we live in, because when you talk about elections, it's based off of popularity. It's like prom king or queen. It's you vote people in based off of literal popularity. That's why there's like a popular vote. So the more popular Pierre Poilievre becomes, the more influence he has, the further reach, the more people can come together and say, yeah, what that guy right there who's eating that apple in front of the reporter, what he's saying makes total sense, and I agree with him. And it doesn't just end on social media. When you see the translation of people that are pro Pierre Poilievre versus pro NDP or Liberal on the other side, there is a huge difference, a drastic difference in the amount of what those clicks and views and what that turns into and translates into real life, real people, real voters. And that's just a beautiful thing. And I don't know if Pierre can keep up the momentum. I'm really hoping he can. He hasn't had really any super major controversies. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Unless he does blackface more than twice and invites more than a couple Nazis into Parliament, I think he's sitting pretty good.
Lisa, the NDP have failed to do what the Conservatives have, which is to capitalize on the Liberals' dissent in public opinion polling.
Well, they're going to have to do it. That is the only path for them to survive the next election. The Angus Reid polls yesterday were very clear that a lot of NDP voters are thinking about moving to the Liberals if they truly want to stop Pierre Poilievre at becoming prime minister. They got to flip that switch. They got to flip the table. They have to be the ones that are taking the votes from the Liberals in order to stop a Pierre Poilievre government. And, Tom and Jack Layton did that back in 2012 when they formed the opposition. They definitely elbowed the Liberals out of the center spotlight of who should be the party that comes closer to being the next government. And I would say that if I sat down with the party, not that I'm invited, but if I sat down with the party, I would just say to Mr. Singh, you got to show as a prime minister, he has to adopt the manner of being the next prime minister and run for the whole enchilada. This is the time. This is the place. The Liberals are vulnerable. It's their turn to make the big change.
And I 100% agree with that, in the sense that the harder Jagmeet tries to take those votes from the Liberals or the Conservatives, the worse it's becoming. Because if it were a true coalition, in the sense that Jagmeet understands that he has no chance of becoming prime minister, then he would submit and tell all his NDP voters to go Liberal. But Jagmeet's stuck in the middle, and he's kind of done this to himself, where he thinks genuinely, it seems, that he genuinely believes he can be prime minister. So he's attacking two different ways, but both of those ways are also attacking him back. So the only thing that's going to come out of this for Jagmeet is he may actually gain more popularity than Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, which would be, I mean, that would be, I guess, incredible, because it just shows how crappy Justin Trudeau has really become, that even he is beneath Jagmeet Singh, which is hilarious to think about, and also hilarious to think that how realistic that actually is as a possibility right now. But Jagmeet is trying to take two hands and put them both in different honeypots, and well, he's going to get stung, and it's all going to backfire on him. And that's kind of our saving grace right now, because if Jagmeet just gave everything to Justin Trudeau and the Liberals and worked, you know, in Trudeau's favor and said, screw the Conservatives, I'm NDP, we're forming a bigger party with the Liberals, then that might be their only hope. But he genuinely thinks that Jagmeet Singh genuinely thinks that he can be prime minister. And it's just not going to work out the way he wants it to, because not that many people will abandon the Conservative the squad or the Liberal squad to get Jagmeet to where he wants to be. It's the Conservatives that are taking the most from all of the other parties. And I mean, why wouldn't you, when you see how ridiculous Jagmeet Singh is online with social media videos, and how ridiculous Justin Trudeau is, and then you see Pierre Poilievre become this rock star and this fame and this, you know, witty, smart individual that's just schooling all other political leaders here in Canada, it becomes a no-brainer. And so I'm very excited for this new political season now that House of Commons is starting back up on Monday. If you want to follow the live streams, then you can do so by clicking the link down in the description for the House of Canada YouTube channel, where I stream question period there. And that's where we're going to end today's video, folks. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments, yay or nay on any of the topics that I covered. And we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.